You're listening to a special episode of Behind the Rhymes, The Mountain We All Climb, with me, Maya.
And me, Andrew. Care. If you choose to care, then buyer beware. You'll get hurt. No walls ever built can protect you. An Achilles' heart can't be shielded. No metal or wood, pierced by words, nothing sharp. The choice before you is laid bare, to care or not to care. There is no grey here. Only two tones, no middle, no centre line, no sweet honey for the bear. So strive to find another heart that treats you kind, but even then you'll be hurt. For humans are fragile things. As we fight, make love, grieve for loss, forever do we feel the heart-shaped hornet's sting.
Hello, Andrew, to the latest podcast of our Behind the Rhymes, The Mountain We All Climb. The poem you just read, Care, is from your new book, From the Mountain to the Waterfall, about love and relationships. How do you feel reading this poem that now can be bought on Amazon in Waterstones, that is available for our audience?
I read this poem at the Word on Water in July this year, 2022. So it's the second time really I've read this out to an audience, but the difference is now that as you point out, the second book came out on the 16th of December 2022. It's nice finally to see this book out. It's taken a long time. This has taken, I think, this from, was it 2020? This has certainly been 2 years in the making. So I'm glad finally it's out and we can share this poem and this book with people.
Did you ever think that you would have two books coming out in 1 year?
No, I didn't ever think I would have one book coming out in 1 year. So never even crossed my mind that two would come out in a year. No, it's been a strange experience, I have to say. But and pleasant and surprising, and as well. But with both books coming out this year.
How did this book come about, From the Mountain to the Waterfall? We know that after the applause came from your experiences working in the NHS at the intensive care unit during COVID. And we've talked a lot about that book on this podcast. What is this one about?
That book really kickstarted me into writing, and I'd been writing for a while before that. So I when I was looking through my poems, I noticed there's quite a lot of relationship poems, and I sort of been writing some more relationship poems, and so it just seemed that it was a good fit for the second book to be about relationships and love in general. And then the first book didn't really have any structure to it. It was just the poems, although they weren't just thrown into the book. But you and I decided that the second book should have a different kind of structure. And we came up with this idea that it should be a journey. As life is a journey, that this should be a journey up a mountain and down a mountain, which kind of tied in nicely with the fact that you are a hiker and you own your own hiking business, hiking in the Balkans.
That's more of a passion than a business, but yes, I have a lot of experience going up and down mountains. So when I looked at your poetry, the love poetry, we were in two different countries at the time. And when I looked at it, all the struggles, all the enthusiasm before the ascent, for example, being at the peak of a relationship, I could definitely see the similarities with going on a longer expedition on a mountain. So that was how I thought we should form this book, and then it went a lot of back and forth, and we juggled the poems around. You did your own order, I did mine. We put all of that together, and the result is this book. As for hiking the Balkans, I've hiked a lot with many people of different ages, different backgrounds, and I've always noticed that the mountain poses a challenge to everybody, whether they are a professional person, hiker that has hiked for decades. Every mountain throws a new challenge at you, just like every relationship. And there's certain patterns in human behavior when they go for a hike. For example, the excitement, just like in a new relationship, when you ascend a mountain, when you first see the challenge that is in front of you, it's exhilarating. But then as you move on and it becomes more and more difficult, sometimes you can, for example, get lost in a mountain, just like in a relationship. And the way to find yourself is a combination of experience. It's a combination of knowing how to read maps, navigate your way, just like in relationships. The more relationships you have, the more your experience tells you whether you're on the right path or not. But it's always important that you consult with the people you are with, because they also have their experiences. And a lot of your poems actually bring out your experience in relationships. So you don't write just romantic poetry, you also write painful poetry that has taken you to the depths of lows and to the heights of very high highs. So
it's I would say the concept of this book as a journey, as you described it, as a mountain, as we talked about it, is correct. But I guess the only difference is there's no map here. So when you go for a hike, there's a map. There's no map to this. When you're young, when you're 16, 18, 22, whatever age, and you're starting out, there's no map to follow here. Everybody's got a piece of advice for you, but there's no real map to follow. You don't know where you're going, and you do get lost. You end up in places where you didn't think you'd be, where you wanted to be. You know, the top of the mountain is the euphoria, the euphoria stage of love that most people in relationships will have experienced. But, there always hits a point, in my experience, where you hit a sort of decline. You go down slightly. I think that inevitably has to happen as you find your feet in a relationship.
I'm not sure if you're aware, but most accidents in mountains happen during the descent, which is exactly what you're talking about. So in a way, it's not easy to reach the top, but almost everyone who decides to go on a mountain reaches the top. But then on the way down, a lot of people get lost or even lose themselves or lose their life on a real mountain. As well as in relationships, people really don't know how to follow the euphoria of reaching the peak if they always expect to be on the peak. And I think this is where your poetry is great, in the sense that you describe these experiences. I guess you couldn't have written this book in your 20s or 30s. You need life experience.
No, people chase that euphoria, that top. And sometimes relationships end because of that, because you can't repeat that. It's just such a unique time, and people try and repeat it. It's a bit like a drug. You get sort of addicted to it, but it's never the same, and it's not repeatable really. And it's as long as it takes. It may take months, it may take years. You will hit these peaks and troughs of a relationship. It's just inevitable. In my over 30 years of being in different relationships, I've seen these peaks and troughs for myself. And yes, I wrote the poems for it, but I see this with other people's relationships as well. So I know it's not just unique to me. And series 3, which this is the first episode of, we'll explore this book and we'll discuss several of these poems that are in From the Mountain to the Waterfalls.
How many poems are there in this book?
So there's slightly less than in After the Applause. So there's 43 poems in this book. Some are a little bit longer than I would say in After the Applause. There weren't too many long ones in that one. But it does go from everything, from the high, the low, everything, just everything really, my experience.
What was Care about, the one you just read?
It's coming out of a relationship, and you are damaged. And when people say the heart, but you're damaged, emotionally damaged, and do you start again? How do you protect yourself from getting hurt again? And I think the honest answer to that is you can't. It's that if you really care for somebody or care, you definitely will get hurt at some point. There's no real way around that because of the emotions that are tied in with love. It's about how you carry on and how you get over that pain and expect that pain maybe again, and how you get over that.
The book, from the waterfall to the mountain, about love and relationships, is divided in different segments. It's the ascent into the woods, the peak, the descent, echoes from the fog, the plateau, the valley, and an epilogue. These titles of the subsections of the book indicate where the poems fit in the journey of life as well as in the journey of being on a mountain. Would you like to read another poem, Settle? This one is from the plateau.
Yes, I'll finish with reading this poem. Settle. We journey on together. We walk the path, always there, hidden by thorns and pricked by despair. To enjoy this path, you by my side, hand in hand, over mountains, through valleys we walk, we climb. We started our journey many years ago with other hands available. We carried on, we lost them in life's show. The peaks and troughs of the almost endless hike, fortitude to continue towards what you think is right.
What is this poem about?
Again, this is picking up in a new relationship. It's how you move on. It's how you can move on. When we started off our journey with other hands, we started off in other relationships. And now we're at a point where we're in a totally different relationship.
I have obviously been involved in the editing of this book, and I know the poems inside out. I would definitely recommend this book for people who have been in love or in a relationship. So that's pretty much everyone. But also I would like to recommend it especially to people who have done some form of hiking. It doesn't have to be Mount Everest or Mont Blanc. It can be your local hills, because I think the twist is very interesting. The comparison between being in nature and experiencing bad weather, experiencing beautiful sunshines and rainbows. The comparison of those experiences with being in a relationship, I think, is really something that I appreciate in your second book.
I'm proud of this book. I was proud of the last one, but I'm equally, if not more, proud of this one, just because, the COVID book, the ITU book, was relatively over a short period of my life. This spans a longer period of my life. And, I'm no guru for relationships. I've made my mistakes in relationships. All my hands up to the times when I've made mistakes in relationships. And I don't know whether people will find this helpful or not. I certainly think anybody that's been in a relationship will recognize some of these stages of this hike or this journey through life. And one of the dedications at the start of the book talks about those that have yet to find this. And it really is dedicated to those people because, at 18, who knew this stuff even existed? You're right, I couldn't have written any of these poems, I don't think, at 18, because I just didn't know anything about life, or love, or pain, hurt, all these other emotions that come in with it.
And yet, 3 decades later, here it is.
It's absolutely, here it is.
Thank you, Andrew. I look forward to the series, the third series of Behind the Rhymes, The Mountain We'll Climb, in the new year.
Yes, just to remind, this book is out now. As you'll hear this podcast, it's available in Waterstones and on Amazon, the same places as the last book. Please buy. If I see you on the street or somewhere else, I'll happily sign a copy for you. And hopefully you'll enjoy this book. And thank you in advance for buying it.
Thank you for listening to this special episode of the third series of our podcast, Behind the Rhymes, The Mountain We All Climb, with me, Maya.
And me, Andrew.
We hope you'll enjoy the new book, From the Mountain to the Waterfall, of Love and Relationships. And if you want to join us on our real mountain hikes, have a look at our website, hikingthebalkans.com, and send us an email at maya@hikingthebalkans, as one word, .com.
And I would just like to thank all the listeners of this podcast and all the people who bought my first book. And to all those people I already knew at the start of this journey, and to those new ones I have met this year, thank you all for your love and support.